For the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You remain standing for a moment of silent prayer. Thank you. The first item on the agenda are public comments at this time. Does anyone have any public comments? Seeing none? Oh. We'll go to the consent agenda. We have minutes of the May 2nd work session and regular meetings, statements and checks, and treasurer's report.
So moved. Support, Peterson.
We have a motion and support. I have a few corrections I'm going to give to Clerk Rowe. I'm sorry, I was out of town.
Okay. And Trustee Swanson, I did make that correction. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the attorney's report. Mr. Winters?
Madam Chairperson, in regards to the planned Galt Village demolition, as I'm sure all of you have seen, the township staff did draft a letter that was reviewed by township officials in regards to the planned demolition of Galt Village. That did go out to Galt Village residents, also with an updated schedule in regards to the so-called construction work schedule. And right now, that's going to take place on Wednesday, May 24th. There'll be the first sign of activity on the Galt Village property with the fencing. And there are stages that are set forth in that schedule that will follow in regards to the next 80 days afterwards. The only thing that probably I would add to that schedule and to that letter perhaps is that I think there's still probably lack of information about the efforts of the township in terms of making sure that we've done our due diligence in regards to the rodent rat issue. I did see some comments where people have posted our letter on the Facebook, and there were a lot of comments about the rat problem. And so I did suggest earlier today, we've been talking with the supervisor that maybe we could do some kind of an update on the township's website in regards to the efforts that were expended by the township to ensure that the rodent population or lack thereof has been, completed by Orkin. That might assuage some of the concerns. There's a lot of activity going on over there in the Galt Village neighborhood, I believe, in regards to construction or I'm not sure if it's the Miller Drain project or something going on over there that you can see in the neighborhoods. And so, but right now the final contract is still being drafted and redrafted between Homrich Inc. and Jason Lafayette from SME in my office. And so that should be presented to the supervisor and clerk, maybe even by Friday. But otherwise, I think that the township did follow through and send out the letter to residents with a schedule. And aside from the rat maybe being kind of shared what may be on the township's website, that's the only thing I would comment in regards to where we stand right now. Also, earlier today, I did talk with the county director, Giovanna Neal, as well as the Stantec engineer, Mark Pasco, because we're finally approaching the end of the letter writing when it comes to Loomfeather Park. And that park is scheduled to be open the end of this month, like most of the township parks are. And there will be one last step here that will happen, I think, after this board meeting, where there will be the need for a hand check to be written to the PGA, which is the contractor, and a separate check for the subcontractor, Suburban, who actually fabricated the railing, because we want to get them paid and to get the waivers of lien so the township can proceed with filing for reimbursement with the Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund. And it's been a long 2.5 years, I think. It's been a long time. But I think that park needs to be open this year and be open on time, and thanks to everybody for your patience, but that's the only remaining item, so to speak, in regards to what has to be done to ensure Loom Feather is opened and is fully utilized for the spring-summer season. So those are the two major updates tonight.
Thank you. Questions or comments? And I do want to thank the team that put together the letter and was able to get out the letter to Gulf Village residents very quickly. And I do know people have received it, and they did make comments. And Dave Ostrowski's here, who is actually the neighborhood watch coordinator for Gulf Village. And Jason is going to go to the next meeting and do a presentation, because there's also a lot of questions on the reuse of that property. A lot of people don't realize we don't own it. We're just demolishing it. So there's still going to be an owner involved, but there's a master plan around it, and Jason from our planning department is going to do a presentation, and we can address the vermin or rat issue at that time, because it was suggested that we put baits out, rat baits out before, and of course we did, like 30 days prior, 40 days. So the good news is there's not been a lot of activity, according to the bait. But I do think that DTE project, which is being done by Miller Drain, and they're putting a new pipeline in for individual homes. So it's a much smaller one, but larger than the one that's currently there. So they're abandoning the current line for gas, and they're putting in a new one. And I do think that that's stirring up a lot of the activity. We say that every time when there's road projects, sewer projects, and no one believes us that the rats actually come up. And I tried to tell some folks that, and they think it's crazy. But it happens every time we have a project. So with demolition, hopefully they'll have that under control with the vermin. But the residents that came previously actually saw them prior to demolition. So I think it might be the Miller or other activity going on, I'm not sure. So we will have to address it at the neighborhood. So that's a good point. Thanks, Doug. All right, the next item on the agenda is Resolution 2023-06, authorizing SRF contract and advertisement for Yucca Bond.
I have Resolution 2023-06, whereas it is necessary to acquire and construct certain improvements to the wastewater treatment plant, including improvements to the plant's ultraviolet disinfection system, headworks odor control system, and influent well, together with all necessary appurtenances and attachments thereto, to serve the township and the city of Ypsilanti, and whereas a contract has been prepared among the township, the city, and the Ypsilanti Community Utilities Authority, whereby the authority will issue its bonds on behalf of the township and the city to provide for the financing of costs for the project, and whereas that this governing body has carefully reviewed the contract and finds that it provides the best means for accomplishing the project and for providing the needed services, now therefore it be resolved that 1, the contract is hereby approved, and the supervisor and clerk of the township are hereby authorized and directed to execute it and deliver the contract for and on behalf of the township, provided, however, that the contract shall not become effective until the expiration of 45 days after the publication of the attached notice is a displayed advertisement of at least a quarter-page size in the Washtenaw Legal News, a newspaper of general circulation within the township, in which manner the publication is deemed by the governing body to be the most effective manner in informing the taxpayers and electors of the township of the details of the proposed contract and the rights of the referendum thereunder. 2, the township clerk is directed to publish the attached notice in the newspaper above designated as soon as possible after the adoption hereof. 3, all resolutions and parts of resolutions in conflict with this resolution be and same hereby are repealed. So move Resolution 2023-06.
Support.
Motion Rose, support Aldridge. Director Blackburn of YCUA.
Good evening. First, my apologies for abruptly running out. I didn't realize the city council started at 6 o'clock until just a few hours ago, so that really threw me off. So my apologies for that.
No problem.
And I just welcome any additional questions beyond the work session about these projects. If there's any additional matters that you would like me to discuss, would you like me to go through it? Should I go through it? Yes. Okay, sorry. So these projects involved two main improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. The first and really more simple one is upgrade of the mechanical equipment on what we call the UV channels, ultraviolet disinfection. This is the process of disinfecting the wastewater just prior to it leaving the facility. Mr. Castro probably came before the board a couple years ago when we were doing bonding and improvements on the fourth channel, which was an addition to the original installation. So this is basically going to be matching the original equipment that's in that fourth channel to the original three. The manufacturer no longer supports the equipment in the original three channels, and it's exceeded its useful life. That project, the opinion of cost on that project is just north of $2 million. The more complex and I'll say variable project is what we call the Headworks Odor Control Improvement Project. That involves improvements to the odor control facility itself, which is basically improvements and replacement of fans, pumps, chemical tanks, some ductwork improvements, movement of electrical switchgear that's housed within that facility that is experiencing significant corrosion. The much more complex piece of that project is a rehabilitation of the plant's influent wet well. That is the concrete structure essentially that intakes the wastewater from everybody. That is the single point of collection within the entire system. And it is basically, it's a concrete structure that sees significant corrosion due to hydrogen sulfide. So the concrete basically just peels off. We feel the need to definitely repair that concrete and ensure the reliability of the system, and it will require a bypass of that portion of the plant as part of the project. Both of these projects are eligible for funding through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund program. These projects are also eligible for an ARP grant. That's, I believe, $799,500 approximately. The proposal would be a 20-year loan bond through the state of Michigan at 1 7/8%. There is no, I understand the way the contract is written. If we could go back, we would, of course, clear that up, but we're on a very tight time frame. We absolutely have no confusion on our part. It will be a 20-year loan. That's the only option that we believe is appropriate, given that the assets that we're installing in these facilities. We would not want to take a loan for assets that may only last 20 years, especially when we're talking about mechanical equipment. The impact to the township is, from a pure debt service perspective, is fairly neutral. There's a couple of bonds that come off when this bond goes on to our schedule. So there's not a significant impact in regards to the amount of debt service change. And it's something we feel is necessary to ensure the continued reliability of the treatment plant and the performance of the system. And I welcome any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Madam Chair, look, you just said there's a couple of bonds that's coming off. Do
Yep.
you know exactly which ones are coming off?
Yes.
I know we have paid like one. Got it, somebody just put it in my hand, thank you. We had just paid one not too long ago, a couple months ago.
So it's approximately a $200,000 principal and interest payment for a dwarf 2003 water bond that will be coming off in '25. There's a 2020 refunding bond that of approximately $250,000 debt service payment that comes off in '26, and three others that come off, ranging from $100,000 to up to $1 million principal payment for a 2017 sewer refunding in 2029.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments? I do think that we greatly appreciate that the debt is coming off, and so now the actual rates will not have to be increased in order to pay for this project. I appreciate that approach, and I know our residents do as well. And I also very much appreciate the headworks, which is the odor control part of the plant. And I know it's a sewer treatment plant, and I used to work there, so I understand it very well. But some days it's just really bad, and we've spent a lot of money on odor control. But with this project, what I heard you say in the work session is that the plant won't be going down as much because you're going to do all the improvements to and that will help with the odor too.
Absolutely.
So
This will
that's-
absolutely improve
that's
the
huge.
reliability of that system. And I learned under Perry Thomas, so odor control is near and dear to my heart, but it's an extremely complex and difficult issue to resolve, and there's a number of sources at the plant that contribute to odors. This is, in my opinion, this is the major source, but there's other processes that also contribute that we have to continue to work hard to minimize that impact.
Any other questions or?
I have one more, and I probably can ask it next week. But look, if we get those grants, so will you guys take that money and pay down, you don't have to pay the bond for a year, but you put that aside, let it grow interest, and then pay whatever you get for grants towards bond?
So it's my understanding in speaking with Tom Colas and Dwayne that we would basically bond less the grant. So
okay.
if the bids came in at 10.5 and we got 800,000, we're going to bond 9.7, depending on how the bids come in.
If the bids come in really high, are you going to prioritize and?
So I think the project that the headwork system could be reworked. I mentioned that during the work session. You know, we definitely sometimes in this environment, kind of post-COVID, we've seen a lot of really concerning bids at times. So absolutely, we would not put our heads in the sand. We would make sure that if the bids really came back and we felt they were unfavorable to YCUA and not appropriate to move forward, we may pick apart pieces of the project, hopefully to maintain the integrity of the grant. But we've seen it on other projects where it comes in 200% of our opinion, and we just don't think that that's fiscally responsible. So I don't think that's going to happen here, but I am honest, the bypass of the influent well, I've seen it done twice in my history at YCUA, and it's a significant undertaking for any contractor. So that involves, in today's world, that definitely involves some variable costs.
But when you bypass it, do you set up a system that it goes to and then goes to the clear?
This will be what we call a gravity bypass. So we're going to be shutting down the headworks, the headworks of the plant is we really remove rags and we call grit, kind of the inorganic asphalt, concrete type material. We're going to basically, what we did in the early 2000s, we drop a manifold inside the influent wet well where 3 large interceptor pipes come in, and then we shut everything down momentarily for hour incremental shutdowns. We dump the flow into what's called a 54-inch bypass. We will reroute W2A's flow because they have 2 lines that come into the headworks of the plant, and then it will bypass that whole plant. So it won't be a pumped bypass, it'll be a gravity bypass. So we're utilizing a feature that was built as part of the original plant construction. But it's a significant impact on operations. So all that treatment does not get performed. It gets pushed downstream, and it's extremely impactful on the systems. But that part should not contribute to any significant odors. It will be the
When you say
headworks.
downstream, you don't mean?
To our primary treatment process.
Thank you.
Yep,
It
sorry.
goes.
Not the water
Thank
leaving
you.
the plant.
I
Yep,
just want to,
sorry.
well, some people might hear
Sure.
it differently.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so, well, that's good then. I mean, I know it's going to be a lot of.
It's a lot. We've been through it, so we kind of know what we're walking into.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you again. My apologies for earlier.
No problem, thank you. The second item on the agenda is the appointment of David Ostrowski to the YCUA Board with a term ending December 31st of 2024, which is filling the vacancy of Jason, who resigned.
So moved, Peterson.
Motion Peterson, support Gerald Rowe to appoint Dave Ostrowski to the YCUA board, and Dave is here. Any questions or comments? Yeah, if you want to.
Madam Chair, I would just say before Dave speaks, I had the pleasure to serve with him for 4 years as a trustee, and I know he'll be fully prepared for every one of those meetings and have the best interest of the township at heart. So this was a very good appointment. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
You have to go to the mic, Dave. Sorry, yeah.
Yes, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you, the Township Board of Trustees, having confidence in me to perform duties for the Township Board and for our community. I look forward to doing an excellent job for you, and at this time, I once again want to say thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Have you met him before? You might want to go out and talk. He has a wealth of knowledge. The next item on the agenda is to accept the quote for a 3-month period to cover the additional amount remaining on the current agreement and to approve the Munitrex subscription agreement to upgrade to the premium program package.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion by Eldridge, supported by Rowe. Giovanna?
Yes, the main reason that I would like to add on to the premium package for this Munitrex is that it does have a capital improvement manager facility program for it, and it also has a program tracker. So we get 2 separate applications. I don't think the cost is that much for each one of those. We don't have a tool right now to do our capital improvement planning in, so this will help with that, and then we can bring reports back. The Munitrex software that we use on the website, we do have that on our township website. The link to that Munitrex is on our township Y-Town. It's up in the left-hand corner. It says Citizens Guide. Please go on that, check it. You can drill down and look at financials, or budgets, financials, histories. You can also look at other communities as well. You can see where we're ranked. It is a nice, and I did put some
In the packet, yeah.
in the packet, just a couple of the screenshots for you. So,
Questions or comments?
So you said that, sorry?
No, yeah, trustee.
So you said there's a capital improvement part. How will that make things different than what we currently have?
we don't have anything right now. What we have right now is I sent out spreadsheets to all the department heads and had them actually put together what they felt were capital improvement needs that they had. We don't have anything that will rank those. We don't have anything that really puts them together to give you nice reports. So what now I've got now is just Excel spreadsheets with basically a wish list. So I need to have something that I can present to you as a board to show you what our capital improvement needs are, where they're at, what they're ranked at. You know, you rank them by, you know, whether they're emergencies, you know, whether it's just wants or needs, correct? So we don't have anything right now that does that.
Is it like asset management too?
Yeah, that's yeah,
Same thing, kind of?
same thing.
My understanding also is that as a project progresses, like I've seen engineers that have,
Yeah, that's going to be the project manager, so that's a separate application. So this additional, we already use Munitrex because it's a state requirement for us to have a facility for public work notification, so the public can go and look at our dashboard, our financials. We have to have that in order to get our city, township, village revenue sharing portion, which is about $600,000 a year. If we don't have that, we don't get that. It's pretty much how that is. So this is additional $2,000, it'll be about $2,200 additional a year. We already pay $5,200. This is an additional $2,200 to get the rest of the premier licensing applications. So I think it's well worth it. And that's why I'm
Especially
requesting
if
that.
we can fill the vacant positions that we have, that helps oversee these projects, and
Correct.
it's going to be,
So that's an example right there?
So that is actually the example that is on our website. That's the link from our website, ytown.org.
Okay.
This, up in the top left-hand corner, it says Citizens Guide. This is what you will see when you get that. And all of those things you can drill down into. When you see the financial, I can't see the too good there, but those green lines, those green bars at the bottom, you can click on those. And under those, you can look at the revenue and expenditure reports. There's all kinds of things that you can actually look at. I know you would like it, John. So as a financial guy, you can go in and drill down. There's also a dashboard, where you can look at crime activity. And this Munetrix actually goes and gets these reports from, various, I don't know where you'd get the reports for criminal stuff. They get them, and they fill them in for us. So they put a lot of work into it. They do a lot of things for us. I give them my Excel spreadsheets for my budget amendments. They drop it in there for me. So I don't have to do a whole lot. If I had to do a whole lot, if I had to do that myself, it would take hours and hours. But they do all that for me. It's a very wonderful tool. And I don't think it's utilized as much as we could use it.
I was just reading a request to accept a quote for 3 months period. We already have a contract with them, is that correct?
We already have a contract. It's more like a,
Extending information you needed,
yeah.
upgrading?
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
additional cost for the last quarter. They run from September 1st through August 31st is what their agreement is. And it's basically we pay it or we don't get the service.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Yeah, but we do have an
So they
agreement.
didn't quote a price, either we pay it, we don't get the service.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
thank you, Joe, for bringing this forward. It's going to be exciting. We have a motion to support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4 is a request to award the bid and approve the purchase of one new Ford F-150 for $43,690 from Feldman Automotive Group, which is budgeted.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion by Rose, support by Eldridge. Hey, John.
Good evening. Due to the frequent use and age of Truck 84, I was requested of RSD to go out to bid for a truck for the building department on the March 21st board meeting. So Feldman bid was the only bid, and we opened that bid on Thursday, May 11th. The lead time is currently 180 days. The money was budgeted in the building fund balance, so it is dependent on a budget amendment.
Questions or comments? Was this on Minton? Or-
Yes, it was.
So it was the only bid was on Minton?
Correct. BidNet, excuse
Oh,
me.
sorry, they used to call it, yeah, okay. So no local?
No, that was the only bid that we received. And actually, we did go out to bid initially after the March 21st meeting, and due to some specifications, we had to put it back out to bid because we wanted to give other dealerships a fair chance because the bed size was listed incorrectly.
Right.
So when we went back out to bid, Feldman was again the only one to bid. So
That's interesting.
they're also the company that provided the 4 OCS Explorers that were purchased last year, so they've have provided vehicles for us, but I'm not sure why other companies weren't bidding as well.
So 180 days to be delivered, is that what it?
Yes, current lead time.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Oh.
Do you have one, John?
I just find it just interesting that nobody else bid. And that's the best price that we could get. But, so that wasn't a question, just a comment.
Madam Chair, I will just add that in the past, we have, as the board had asked, like, sent specific letters to all of the local dealerships and same response. So I don't know what, I'm not sure. I think it would be a question for, like, the dealerships themselves. Like, do you not look for municipal work, or is it, more profitable to just do individual things? So I'm not really sure what the answer is, but we have reached out individually to local dealers, so.
On this one, you did too?
Not specifically on this one. However, if most of the local people are subscribers to the BidNet, so they get dinged or whatever because they're subscribed to the service.
We did have another company, inquire about our, RFQ that we sent out, but they didn't submit anything. So I know other dealerships did see it.
All right, so we have a motion support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is request to waive the financial policy and award the low quote from Hearns and Son Concrete Construction for the installation of a 40-by-40 concrete slab at Ford Lake Park in the amount of $16,000, which is budgeted.
So move, Peterson.
We have a motion, Peterson, support Hunter.
Yes, the Residential Services Department is requesting to waive the portion of the financial policy which requires seeking sealed bids and to accept the low quote of $16,000 from Hearns and Son Concrete Construction to approve the installation of a 40-by-40-foot concrete slab at Ford Lake Park. When quotes were initially sent out, 40-by-40 was not the initial size that we thought was needed. It thought it was going to be smaller, so then the price would be below the limit to need to go out to sealed bids. But after, I think, meetings with the Jazz Series, learning how big that size they're going to need for the stage, we wanted to increase it to make sure that it fit the stage, to not put more wear and tear on the basketball court. And by increasing that size, it brought it just over that $15,000 threshold. Having this concrete slab is going to be very beneficial, one for that, but also to use for future special events, whether it be, at cornhole tournaments, maybe using in our special events, really could be a nice event space to have. And then again, create less wear and tear on our basketball court, but also help us maintain that area a little bit easier from having to mow and, on our staff.
Questions or comment?
So is the location going to be where they moved, where the back was to the river, or not to the river, to the lake? Is that where it's going to be with the location that when they moved off the basketball court? Is that where the slab's planned for?
Yes.
And that will be a permanent slab.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, concrete can always be taken out, but
Right.
it's take a little bit of work.
Well, yeah, I know when you spoke about preserving the basketball court, that's where I thought about portability, but it'll just be in a different spot.
Yeah, just the weight of the stage going on in the basketball court. I mean, we did it last year, but, continuing to do that,
Yeah.
it's just going to because it's not as thick as this concrete slab will be. There's only a matter of time before it just cracks and becomes unusable for the many folks who go out there to use the court.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So is there going to be a logo or anything on it? Because, just having a big slab in the middle of the...
There were no plans for that. It was a slab.
Okay.
We did ask for color, or I asked for color. But- Yeah, basically. And it's level to the ground, so it's not going to be up, is my understanding.
Yeah, it will not be a trip hazard or anything like that.
Flush, that's a better term. What I like about this is, until the Jazz Series came, I really never had the opportunity to experience the lake like that. We had fireworks there, and we've had hydroplane racing, but to see a concert out there, but also to use it as a multi-purpose space for, like you said, cornhole tournaments, weddings would be really pretty on that.
It opens up options when it comes to our special event packet as well. Really get creative on what kind of things can be brought out there.
So I'm just wondering, concrete, right, that close to the lake, we've already got runoff and that kind of stuff that happens. Is there any way to do something that would be maybe a what do they call those little rain garden on the side that would be closest to, because you're not going to want it all around it because they've got to get stuff in, but maybe a rain garden that was on the end that's where the lake is to maybe help mitigate some of that, because it could get really damp out there. We had a lot of rain last time, so I'm just wondering, we're going to have to think a little bit about that.
Yes, and one thing I forgot to mention, but I did put in the memo, was that the Township Chief Building Official, Dave Bellers, will do a pre-construction meeting with Hearns and Sons Construction to basically sign off on the work that they plan to do, to make sure that it is going to be properly installed, not be too close to the shoreline, and not create any sort of structural deficiencies in the park. As it comes to a rain garden specifically, I think it's a very, very good idea and something worth, looking into.
We have a motion. Mr. Winters, have you
Well,
reviewed?
I've seen the quotes, there's like 4 quotes here, so I assume I can prepare a contract, but it's pretty straightforward.
And Hearns and Son is,
They are local, they were the low quote, and I know that they've done work around the township that the building department has recommended.
Very good.
all right. So this will be contingent upon a contract.
I mean, I'll prepare one if the board requires me to do it. Should have something.
Amendment?
It was Peter.
Yes, Madam Chair, I can do amendment on the,
Contract.
on the contract. But also, I was trying to word it, that the attorney looks at the proper documentations first. Okay?
Supported by, okay. We have a motion support that's been amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6 is request to authorize and sign a contract with Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office to facilitate collaborative sharing of a school resource officer for the summer months with the Lincoln Consolidated School District budget and line item 266-301-831-008.
So move. Sorry.
We have a motion and support. We've done this for many years at the township. The schools contract for a deputy, and during the summer months, we contract for them in order to add additional forces or people power to the deputy fleet, if you would. And it's for a short term. They usually are required, they work with the youth a lot because they know them. And Ypsi Schools, I don't think had one this year, but this is Lincoln Schools deputy that they have there. So,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I would just ask, as I have for the past 14 years, that if we're going to pick up the extra cost of this deputy, that they actually are here during the summer and not utilize the summer months away from the school district to use for their time off, so that we get the value for what we're paying for, and that we also request from the township lieutenant who oversees this deputy that he can give us weekly or biweekly updates on the benchmarks that we can hear in the police meetings that we have every week, so we can share it with the rest of the board so that we know again that we're getting the value for this position.
So we can put that in a communication from the clerk. When we approve it, just add those things.
That'd be great.
But like you said, every year this is brought up, so
Right.
good point.
Madam Chair, just to clarify, you want weekly updates, and what was the other?
We just want to make sure that we get weekly updates as to what this position is accomplishing, so that we make sure that we're getting a return on the investment that we're making, and that there's no time off used for this deputy that could be used elsewhere where their full-time contract exists.
Asking for weekly updates would cover that, right?
Yes.
Got it. Great. Can do that.
So this officer provides security around the school or interacts with the youth?
Yeah, they the school contracts for them to be in the schools. And Willow Run used to have one, Ypsi schools and Lincoln. Lincoln is the only one that currently has them.
Okay, so they interact with the youth that are there.
They're called a school resource officer, and they contract with the county.
Okay.
But during the months that they're not in school, the township contracts with them in order to have additional power, people power on the sheriff's department. And it actually helps the school system too by doing that. Helps us, helps them, win-win, as long as they're not on vacation. That's what Stan's concern was, is making sure that they don't take scheduled vacation during the time that we're contracting for them. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is to request circuit court action to abate public nuisances located at 1254 and 1268 E-Course, which is Pet City Pets, in an amount not to exceed $10,000.
So move.
Motion Rowe. Support Eldridge. Belinda?
Good evening. Belinda Kingsley, Community Compliance Director. The two properties that are involved in this request are home to Pet City Pets. That's been there for approximately 35 years. And we have had a long history of enforcement on these properties since 2002, with primarily the same request to do something about rats that neighbors have witnessed coming out of the property. So we started with a district court case with a citation requesting that the property owner clean up the backside of the property, like what's in the picture there, where he uses it to store items outside that are providing rat harborage. There's evidence of rats tunneling underneath the shed, chewing on the wood around the base of the shed, and just, general places where they can live. And so that was our two requests to him. But since then, we've also talked to the planning department and found out that a fence was put in without approval. And it does block the neighbor from being able to see to back out of her driveway, because it's a fence with the slats woven into it. And it goes right up to the sidewalk on Wharton. And then also the shed was installed without a permit too, which even if the fence was removed, the shed would still prevent her from being able to have good visibility. The zoning ordinance does not permit a fence or a shed or any type of corner visibility issue where the driveway and a sidewalk meet. And these both, the sidewalk is just barely past the fence. So we decided we had to withdraw the district court action and go to circuit court, because this was a lot more than what district court would take on. So we're hoping to get authorization to file litigation, get the back of the property cleaned up, and get the fence removed and the shed removed.
Questions or comments? Trustee Swanson?
So the question I have is, if we know there are vermin there and we ask for things to be removed, we could be pushing vermin out, because this is where they're feeding and they're living or whatever, harboring. So is it possible that when we request to abate this or go after it, that we make some kind of a condition that you got to get rid of the ones that are there, or bait, or do something, so that, because if you're asking for a fence to be down, that could just push these vermin right into the neighborhood. I mean, they're already there,
Yeah.
but they're probably not, if they're feeding there, they may not be causing a problem other places. I mean, we would ideally want them gone,
Right.
I would think.
The owner has been trying to trap them, but also we are working with Orkin, with the program that they're working with the township through Water Resources. They went out there and did an evaluation to confirm that there really was an issue. So I think we could continue to work with them, in that area to try to abate the issue.
Because there's also a restaurant business close by too, so I think the last thing we want to do is, we'd like to get them right where they are,
Yeah.
and we don't want to push them out, or I would prefer to get them where they are. I can only speak for myself, I guess, before they get pushed out. I'm sorry, my little thing is not there anymore. So that's just what I would be concerned about.
No, that seems logical.
Well, that would be part of the court request, Mr. Winter?
Well, yes, I mean, if there's such a mess out there, you're going to have to clean that mess up. For storage, shouldn't be there. The rat infestation is going to have to be handled professionally, whether it's Orkin or anybody else, at the property owner's expense. The shed and the fence, that's a planning issue that's also come into play here now with having a negative impact upon the property owner, safely ingressing and exiting the property. So there's a whole host of issues that the circuit court can order and require compliance. And so, but from my standpoint, the first issue is getting that storage area cleaned up and a rat abatement program in place there, because it's going to continue to be a problem. It has for the last 20 years, apparently. So it's time for this to come to an end.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is a request to authorize circuit court litigation to abate public nuisances located at 3011 East Michigan Avenue, Men Like Us, in an amount not to exceed $10,000, which is budgeted.
So moved.
Motion Rowe,
Support.
support Eldridge. Belinda, you and I both good.
There's a lot involved in this one. So the property is owned by Nicholas Tolmers of Lilly Investment, and he leases it to Artis Lewis, who's doing business as Men Like Us. Artis Lewis contacted the township in February of 21 to find out what he needed to do to be able to open up a private club, men's club, more of a philanthropic type of a business from the description that he provided to us. He was given the information on the process that he needed to go through with the planning department, with the planning commission, and he needed to get planning commission's approval because it was a change of use. And with that change of use, that opens up looking at the site and what improvements need to be made to bring the site into compliance. So there were several things, landscaping, parking lot striping. He was supposed to put up a dumpster enclosure, install a camera system that would be accessed by the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department, like we ask all businesses to do with any site plan approval. And he did get approval from the Plan Commission. Then he submitted a business registration that all businesses have to do. And his description is in here, but basically he's saying that they're going to be a mentoring service to young men, provide community services, Toys for Tots, food drives, feed the homeless, different things like that. And what it's really turned into is more of a nightclub venue that holds events that they charge people admission to. And it's been causing a lot of problems in the neighborhood. It's been a drain on the resources of the township, the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department. The issues that they have are that they're requesting services for assaults in the parking lot. There's been shootings. Their parking overflows onto the neighboring properties. They've just taken over, and the neighbors, from the ones that I've talked to, are afraid to report, and the retribution fear. But they've taken over the neighbors' properties. It just hasn't been something that's been good for the community or the neighborhood. Their use has deviated from what they originally described to the Planning Commission and to the township that they were going to be doing there. The Planning Commission meetings are attached, where you can see that it was very clear what they said that they were going to be doing on the property, and that just has not turned out to be the case. There's been dozens of calls to the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department and the township for fire department and the township for complaints for violations. We have tried to work with them. We tried to work with the property owner and the renter, the tenant, and the talks were pretty much unproductive. They made promises that they did not keep, and really there's been no change in the 2 years that they've been there. My summary is that they're not operating as they described they would to the Planning Commission and in the business registration. It's been a negative impact on the neighborhood. They have a history of serious crimes, coupled with their lack of accountability when asked about them. They're not willing to really work with us to try to resolve anything, come to an understanding of what they can do on the site. They've refused to provide video when asked in the past, when there's been incidents there. And just, as I said, we've expended a lot of resources, and so has the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department, and on just this one property.
Questions or comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
The shootings that have occurred at the location, who are they involved? Are they involved any of the management or staff of the business?
I can't say for sure. I mean, my understanding is that the Sheriff's Department doesn't get a lot of cooperation, so we don't know if these are part of their membership or if these are people that are attending the events. The events are open to the public, so it could be anyone.
Can I follow up on that?
Yes, Treasurer Elder.
I didn't have a question until trustee just asked, and you mentioned that the parties are being hosted with numerous people outside their membership. Because I'm looking at their business registration, and under number 2, it says they will host private events within their membership only. So you're saying that's not occurring?
That's not true. From
Okay.
the information that we've had.
Madam Chair.
Does Mr. Hunter have any more questions?
No.
I'll hold for now. I may have another. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Gloria.
Well, then let me ask, so you're saying, and, we've heard some stories out that way. Sitting on a planning commission, we would hope that this will work out. But it's unfortunate. But if it's true, it's unfortunate. But let me say this, and I'm not downing your report. Do they have cameras? And the reason why I asked that, we've seen tapes or video that are spinning in the park lot, whatever. He did send me something to tell me the positive things they've done. And I don't know, I think I showed it to Brenda, a couple of them. But when they were spinning their tires, I think he had a response that those were people that wasn't even affiliated with them. I think that was his response. So I guess my question is, did we see any, I think we're supposed to check, they're supposed to have cameras. Did we see what went down when the shooting went place? I just want to give a fair yes or no. I visited there one time when they opened, and there was someone I knew from the U of M that was selling something. And I drove there, and the parking lot was jammed, where they had to use other spaces. Don't know if they got approval. But I got out of there, and I didn't see anybody new, so I left. But just want to know if the camera showed anything. So we hear there's been shooting, it's been reported there's been shootings. Did they see anything on camera? I know they seen them spinning out in the winter. Did they find out, was that really somebody that was associated with them? They said it wasn't. So I was wondering if those questions had been answered. Before we take court.
Yeah, no, and I have no personal knowledge on a lot of this. It comes up in the police services meetings, so the people, the trust, well, is it Stan, Brenda, Heather, and Doug maybe can answer that better. They attend that meeting.
Who attended, Stan did?
Doug, Stan, Brenda, and Heather.
I asked the attorney.
Yeah.
Brother Attorney, did you get those reports? I know you got some reports.
A lot of reports.
I know you got a lot of reports, but I'm saying, did we see it on video, or did you see it on video? The shooting and all the other things?
The video that was required to be installed by the Planning Commission to be available to law enforcement
They never.
was never installed until
Gotcha.
there was another shooting, I believe in November 2022, and that is the point where Mr. Lewis told our sheriff's department that he didn't know he was required to keep that for 45 days. That was going back to what the Planning Commission had required in April 2021. He was fully aware of that requirement. What I will say is I got over 45 police reports. There's been, but for the grace of God, if someone not actually died on the scene in that parking lot. There's been shootings. There was one incident, they had multiple shootings where people were being transported to St. Joe Hospital from the parking lot while another car was racing to the same hospital, transporting the other victim of the shooting. There's been a request made at that very moment of the shootings by the deputies who noticed there was a ring bell camera for that video that was refused to be provided by Mr. Lewis. And so whether it's been assaults inside, outside, there's been shootings on several occasions, there's been discharge of firearms. The abuse of the neighboring properties, quite frankly, is something that I've never seen anywhere in this township except at this location. Now, we have taken the Elks Club to court, and they have been held, on several occasions now that they cannot, they were allowed to open under certain conditions. Those conditions were violated, and they were basically shut down again by Judge Connors. But the videos that we have, and I have 5 videos that have been provided by the Sheriff's Department. The other 20 will be forthcoming if we go to court by subpoena. But just the videos that we have obtained from just ride-alongs or on our own will show how the car wash has been totally taken over for parking, double parking throughout the whole perimeter of the property. The Express Fish Chicken Place has been totally taken over at times, and there's been confrontations at that gas station between the owner and people wishing to park there because I think the gas station is open much later. These police reports, much of what occurs there takes place at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. Nothing good ever happens, usually after midnight, as your parents used to always say, and these reports pretty much bear that out, that what goes on there, what's happened there. There's been party buses that pull up there with as many as 30 people going into the establishment. So in terms of the township's patience, again, it's been over 2 years. They've been open, and I've never seen this many police reports and this many acts of assaults, discharge of firearms, shootings that have occurred, fights that occur. And it's just, it's not going to end well. This past 2 weeks ago, there was an event there that had the Holmes Road area and Michigan Avenue impacted. During the daylight hours. In regards to the incident involving those individuals that were, quote unquote, doing donuts on Michigan Avenue, that video was provided by DTE across the street. they were identified, the car was identified, and there was also some Facebook postings showing that the gathering occurred there in the parking lot. The bottom line is that if you own a property, if you're going to lease a property, then you have to take responsibility and accountability for what occurs on property that you own and lease. And you control a crowd, and if it reaches a point where parking becomes an issue, you can't just park where you want to, or you shouldn't be able to. It's going to have a negative impact. If there's ever an emergency responder needed to go out there at times, and it has been, trying to gain access to the parking lot would be very, very difficult. And the videos that we have, we can show tonight, are going to graphically depict what has occurred there for the last 2 years. And so it's not a question at this point in time about, did they have video up for 45 days? No, they don't. Are they using it for something different than what they said they're going to? Yes, they are. But right now, my concern is that they've created a dangerous, violent environment where I can't begin to tell you how much time has been expended by the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department. We don't even have full staffing in the township. We only have we 32 or 33 at most. We contract for 35. We can't fill those positions. And yet there's been many, many nights that they've had to have mutual aid respond to incidents at that location. There's been, and when you take away, you have to respond over to this one location, then they're not available to respond to other locations where there could be other needs for critical assistance. So it's not fair to neighboring properties. It's not fair to the county sheriff's department. It's not fair to the township planning commission. It's not fair to the township board to exercise good faith in approving this proposed reuse of the property, and then to have this number of police reports that's probably 2 inches thick, not to mention the videos that go with it. And again, it's just a matter of time. In fact, I'm just amazed when I read these reports that someone has not actually already died or been killed out there, because you get shot in the stomach area, the legs, etc. There's just one slight move away from having that go through your heart or through your head. So it's going to not end well at this point in time unless there's some guardrails put in place there. And those guardrails can only come about, in my opinion, through the Washtenaw County Circuit Court, much similar to what was done with the Elks, to try and protect the public health and safety, because there's people driving by there when shots have been fired. There's been I don't know how a car did not collide with that vehicle doing donuts on Michigan Avenue, and that cloud of smoke that comes about from going around at high speeds in a circle. So at this point in time, I know that there was a point in time when Denny, my law partner, and Stan, and Heather, and I think other people from maybe the Sheriff's Department reached out to the attorney that owns the property, the attorney representing the gentleman that owns the property, Mr. Lewis, trying to gain some degree of cooperation. There was requests for follow-up meetings. Nobody would respond to the request for follow-up meetings. And in the meantime, all these events have continued to unfold. And at this point in time, you're probably tired of reading my letters about this, because I know I'm trying to write it. And because it's the same old. It's kind of like the definition of insanity, where you do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. I don't think it's going to happen. So at this point in time, I know we've talked about it internally for the last 2 years. And it's not something we just do lightly. I recommend that we proceed in this fashion. And but at the same time, I don't know what the alternatives are going to be. It's going to protect the neighboring properties. They have a right to use their businesses and not have it taken over, because your crowd or what you're doing is attracting more people, more vehicles than what your parking can handle. That's not the fault of the car wash. It's not the fault of Express Chicken. It's not the fault of Coleman's Market. It's not the fault of other gas station owner. So at this point in time, again, it's been 2 years of frustration on my part, trying to figure out what we can do. I know the sheriff's department, I mean, I won't go into detail, but they've had people sit out there having to watch what's going on in the parking lot. And that, again, is a valuable waste of our resources. I don't say waste in a way that they're not wasting their time, but I'm just saying is that that's not fair to have them tied up for that amount of time on one property. It's just not sustainable, and it's not doable, and it's a dangerous game of roulette they're playing in terms of how this is going to end. And I think we should be proactive at this point in time because it's not going to get any better.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. And we do see your reports and all the emails. It has been going on a while. But I just want to know, did the cameras show anything? You answered my question 10 minutes ago. They didn't even submit the cameras. When the planning commission told them to do the cameras, you answered, that was the first statement you said, there's no cameras because they never did any. And that, that is beside everything else that was going on there. But thank you so much. I understand when I asked her, did you see that? Who was out there? There's no cameras to be seen. Thank you very much.
So I wondered do we know the occupancy? Like, is there an occupancy number for that particular building? I mean, do you know that? I didn't see anything.
There's a parking occupancy. That's, the parking lot determines how many, and the problem is the building may hold more, so they park in other areas, but they have a parking lot that's small in size.
Right, but it's not, it's actually, I mean, there's enough space to park there if you, I guess I'm not, if they have a park, they don't have 3 parking spots. I guess that's the part I'm trying to say, is that if you're going to hold an event, it looked like the meetings from the planning commission sounded like they weren't going to be grand, huge events. So the parking lot seems adequate for what they presented, right? And so where there's an abundance of people showing up, and it's not a very large piece of property, and it's kind of landlocked with all these other intersections, it just seems like even from that standpoint, having that kind of volume of cars in a small area that isn't adhering to what the parking lot is supposed to be, seems like that is an additional concern just for traffic safety, because Michigan Ave is, several lanes. We've had people get hurt crossing or being around there. So having that amount of people in this really small space with other businesses, it just doesn't make sense to me. That if it isn't like they have a couple spots, that they'd have to take over the other spots of the other business if they were doing what they're saying. It seems like that would be adequate, because the parking lot's not huge, but it's also not tiny. So I just wondered what the occupancy, like how many people are supposed to be in the building, and if it's based on parking, like it doesn't look like that's being followed either, or it doesn't sound like that's being followed.
There is an occupancy number, and I'm not sure what it is. But I know I've heard of 2 occasions where one time the fire department showed up at a call, another time the police showed up, the sheriff's department, and asked for to access the building so they could do a count and see if they were over capacity, and both times they were denied and the door was locked. So they were not admitted to do a count.
I'm just thinking about the times when we've had to meet with people with the liquor committee, and how many things have to be proven before anything like that's issued, which is like parking, how many people can be in the building, how many restrooms you have. There's so many conditions before we'll even think about that I don't even know if that's even been looked at here. So, we really ask a lot of people and of course they're getting a license for something if that happens, but if you're going to let people be in a building like that, that is concerning to have that volume of people.
They did look at it when the Planning Commission reviewed it, but they reviewed it based on the information that was provided, not what they're actually doing there. So what the information they provided was, reasonable hours of operation, and a reasonable number of members and, activities, but that's not the way it's turned out, and there isn't enough parking there at this point for the type of events that they hold.
Even they talked about the wedding part, they said only would be members.
Right.
And we're a small number of members, so they quoted a number of members that would even that be an option, so it didn't look like it was originally stated it would be for larger events.
Any other comment?
One other question and comment, perhaps. And I guess the first thing I'd like to ask is, do we know why, and maybe we don't, but why there's no representative from Men Like Us here tonight? Have they been invited here?
Madam Chair, Trustee Hunter, is just a matter of how the township works with circuit court litigations. We don't typically offer invitation for them to come.
Fair. I'll just make the comment that after hearing Attorney Winters and everyone else speak, this is disappointing to hear. Public safety is a primary concern always. And, I'm forced to agree that there seems to be kind of a ticking time bomb component going on here. And it's unfortunate because on paper, anyway, I think I agree with their mission. I do. And I think it sounds as if they were trying to be positive. So to hear it come to this kind of point is, for me, severely disappointing. So I feel like we only have one way to go at this point. And I just say to Men Like Us, if they are able to access this recording at some point, I know we are recorded, that, just learn from this moment. And if you want to proceed forward, adjust your process, because what's happening here is not working. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hunter. Any other comments? We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7 is a budget amendment. Clerk Rowe.
Sorry. I have a motion to amend the 2023 budget amendment number 7. I'd move to increase the general fund budget by $11,006 to $13,755,916 and approve the department line item changes as outlined. Move to increase the building department fund budget by $43,690 to $1,038,315 and approve the line item changes as outlined. And move to increase the golf course fund budget by $9,750 to $940,051 and approve the line item changes as outlined.
We have a motion.
Support.
There's a support. Questions or comments? Just to go through some of these, the request, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial that we have out there, there's a fund set up, and they submit to us when they complete projects, and then we submit to the Ann Arbor Community Fund for reimbursement. And that's set up in the original agreement. It's a perpetual fund that they have for the maintenance of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Another one is the clerk's department is asking for a $2,000 adjustment, and I think next year what we need to do, and Giovanna's here, but a lot of people are ordering clothing for our new logo and everything, and we really didn't have a line item for each department. Some people are getting it out of the HR, but I think what we should do, because I know ordinance has a line item for it, assessing has a line item, but I don't think treasurers, and I know I don't, and neither does the clerk's office, so we do need to look at possibly adding a line item for apparel, like, what do you call it? Is it apparel?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that we did not spend $2,000 on apparel, though.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't say that. It was, yeah, no, not at all. It was about 600. But my point was each department did that. And learning from it, then we should budget for it. I think it's a good idea. I think MasterCards come out of election division, right?
So I personally see MasterCards as record keeping. So as you all know, the clerk's budget used to be one budget, and then we switched it into elections and clerks. And so looking at each of these things, like keeping MasterCards is record retention, and we do this on a daily basis, whether or not we have an election.
So you don't order MasterCards from the election division?
We have not done that.
I'm not sure about, I don't know enough about it. The other one was the Munitrex agreement that we talked about, expanding the software so that it will help us with our capital improvements. And the building department fund was for the F-150, and that was $43,000. The golf course fund was a reimbursement for the insurance, the damages that occurred at the golf course. So that was the budget. Any questions or comment? We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is to authorize to seek sealed bids for 4 new plow trucks for the Park and Grounds Department.
So moved, Peterson.
Support.
Motion Peterson, support Hunter. Questions or comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under other business, we added 2 items.
Yes, I would like to request to accept the letter of recommendation from HR Director Karen Wallen for the Level 2 and 3, and that's the MCAO and MAAO assessors. As outlined in the letter of agreement, this was discussed in the work session. I would so move the recommendation.
Support Peterson.
There's a motion and support. Ms. Wallen?
Good evening once again. As I stated in the work session, this is a recommendation due to a letter of agreement that was signed as part of a negotiation process with TPOAM at the end of 2022, that we would do this within 6 months of the ratification of the contract, which we have managed to do. And we're recommending that those 2 positions be adjusted to the fair market value of what the survey showed. So.
Questions or comments? Thank you and for doing all the work on it with Mr. Winters and actually doing what we said we were going to do with the union is within 6 months we would do a salary survey in comparison, and you did that, and thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we have a great assessing department, and I hope it retains people at Ypsilanti Township by doing this. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The second item was the request to approve a sales agreement between Ypsilanti Township and Clear Energy for renewable energy credits. This is for our hydro station, and the amount is $13,932.80.
Support.
Motion Swenson, support Rowe. And Michael.
Good evening, Madam Chair, member of the board. In front of you is a sales agreement for our hydro station and the renewable energy credits it creates through the energy it produces. We don't get this opportunity very often, about every 4 or 5 years, and our inventory just slowly increases since what we use internally is less than what we generate. So the Clear Energy has reached out to a number of smaller generators like Ypsi Township and working to group a brokerage deal with a larger consumer. So this agreement's based on a contingent factor that he gets all those smaller agreements in place prior to June 1 to get this executed. So this all happened late afternoon yesterday, so it took me a little bit of time to get everything wrapped up and get to you guys today. So again, this is just something that happens every so often. And that revenue comes and stays right with the hydro and the health operations.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, am I done?
Yeah, no, that's
You had board member comments?
support.
Pardon me? Motion
Gloria motion, I'll support.
to adjourn?
Oh, sorry, is that what you're asking?
Oh, you said other business?
I just had one I just wanted to bring up quickly, if I could. And I saw the chief here earlier. I'm sorry he left. I spoke to the attorney. I spoke to Karen. She was kind enough to come through my office for about an hour. And I know we all received the email on the fire station shutdowns. And I'm not passing who's at fault for this. My concern is that a fire station is shuttered, period. That just can't happen in a township like this, and we need to figure out why. So, as I said to Ms. Wallen and the fire chief, having sat on both sides of this as a first responder and a board member, I'd be more than happy to sit in and try to bridge whatever issue there is. But Ypsilanti Township, in its size, in this current day and age, cannot have a fire station shuttered for any reason, period. So.
Well, to add, there's significant construction projects with roads that make it harder for, one station against another place because we've got the Eagle Road 94 project, we've got a bunch going on downtown, it's getting anywhere quickly is going to be tricky, so having
Right.
strategically where they are is really important.
Well, even in lieu of that, is the chief, and I'm sure the firefighters would tell you, and as I learned through my career, fire spreads exponentially within minutes, and albeit we can rely on other agencies, it's not going to solve those problems. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that, and whatever I can do to help bridge that gap between them, I would do.
Well, now that you brought it up, we do have to point out that we're down 4
Oh, yeah.
firefighters, and this is a problem throughout our nation, is getting more firefighters. They do have a civil service meeting tomorrow, right, Karen? And the list, there's 2 people on the list that's went through testing because of the requirements that we have with the Civil Service Commission and the union agreement. Last time, they did have some flexibility in the hiring of firefighters, and we hired 3 or 4. 3, I think. The last eligibility list. So, I mean, the timing, I do wish we could have some more flexibility with the hiring, but when you go through a Civil Service Commission, there's very specific rules that you have to follow in the agreement. So we're down 4 vacancies. We hope to hire 2 after Wednesday, and they have to go through that process, right? But we're still down 2 more. So there is a challenge with the process, and I'm not sure how to fix it. And maybe you can help navigate that with we have the Civil Service Commission and we have union agreements that we have to agree with. It sounds simple, but it's really not. So we're trying, and I'm sorry the fire chief left because he would have been able to help answer some of the questions. I understand that people are not working overtime either. Is that correct? So, and that's another issue. So we're short-staffed, and they're probably just working too many hours. I don't know enough about it. I know for the chief to do that, it was just very harsh circumstances because our chief wouldn't do that. And he does reach out, like you said, Stan, there's regional authority where people can help, but there's nothing better than having a fully staffed fire department. So we're working towards as quick as we can through the processes that we have. So, thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
We already have a. All in favor?
Aye.